really be their spiritual life for the week. They pretty much do nothing else. They don't give, they don't serve, they just come and attend a service. And if you ask them, they would say, well, yeah, I'm faithful to my church. I never miss a Sunday. But their idea of faithfulness and God's idea of faithfulness would be two different things, because God only defines our faithfulness in terms of our fruitfulness. The question that John 15 raises is this: what is the fruit that God requires to be seen in our lives? If all Christians bear fruit, what is that fruit? If that fruit is our ID, if that fruit is the only way other people will know that we truly are saved, what is that fruit? Well, that's the text of our series. That fruit is found piece by piece in Galatians chapter number 5. And so if you have a Bible with you, if you would turn over there with me very quickly, Galatians chapter number 5, and this is the text that we will be in now for the remainder of this series. Galatians chapter 5. What is our ID? What is our fruit exactly? Here in Galatians chapter number 5, Paul contrasts the unsaved life with the saved life. Now, we talked about the saved life last week. Here in Galatians 5, what he does is contrast the unsaved life with the saved life. Let me say that we have always tended to identify this fruit that is to be in our lives as winning people to Christ. I mean, that's pretty much it, winning people to Christ. So that raises a question: is that right? Is the fruit that we're to bear in our lives winning people to Christ? And I would say very quickly, well, sure it is. Sure it is. That's why we send missionaries. All over the world, we help support missionaries. We give sacrificially to help send missionaries, because Paul said they go with the resources that we give them, and they bear fruit to our account. That's what he said in Philippians 4. They bear fruit to our account. And so winning people to Christ absolutely is fruit. But wait a minute. Be careful. Because if winning people to Christ is the only ID that we're really saved, if we judge that by that sole standard, then I wonder how many people in this room this morning are really saved. I wonder how many people in this room this morning have ever really personally led someone to Jesus Christ. And so maybe there's more to this than just that. In fact, some of you right now are praying, I hope there's something else. I hope there's something else. And there is, but nobody gets a pass on that first one either. Now here in Galatians 5, Paul gives us, before he gives us those pieces of fruit in detail, and we're going to look at them in detail in this series, and I think we'll learn a lot from them. I think it will help us all. But this morning I want to focus on the portion of Scripture just in front of that. Because in Galatians 5, beginning at verse 19, Paul contrasts for us the saved life and the unsaved life. He's going to give us the saved life, the fruit, in a little bit, but he begins with characteristics of the unsaved life. In other words, these are some of the things. It's not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the things that exist regularly and habitually in the lives of people who have never been saved. And the list is very interesting, and I won't belabor it at all this morning, but I do want to give you the definitions of these words, because this is important. This is the contrast of what we're going to be studying the rest of the series. This is the opposite of the saved life. These are characteristics or a look at the unsaved life. Galatians 5:19, and then they're just listed. Here we go. What are they? What characterizes an unsaved life? Number one is adultery. I'll define them quickly. Unfaithfulness to your marriage vows. The second in the list is fornication, which is sexual activity with anyone other than your spouse. Then he lists uncleanness, which is sensuality. Boy, don't we live in a sensual world today. You can't hardly watch a commercial on television anymore that doesn't have sensuality as its base. Uncleanness. Then he lists lewdness. Lewdness. Lewdness is no restraint, no limits on what you'll do. Then he lists idolatry. Idolatry is worshiping anything besides God. I'm in verse 20. He says next, sorcery or witchcraft. Witchcraft. It's also, it's interesting, this word for sorcery, translated sorcery here, is also the Greek word from which we get the English word drugs. But it's not the drugs like you may be thinking. These drugs that he's talking about were actually concocted to talk with evil spirits in witchcraft-type ceremonies, demonic activity. And so sorcery or witchcraft. And then the next one is hatred. Well, what is hatred? Hatred is strong feelings of malice directed at someone desiring their harm. Okay, it's not just a feeling. It is a feeling, but if you could, you would hurt them for what they did to you. Contentions is next. Contention is discord and quarrels. Listen, purposely stirring up trouble. Purposely stirring up trouble. Jealousies, distrust and suspicion. Now, there are more. Wrath, outbursts of hot anger, just a short fuse, you just blow up. Any little thing. Selfish ambition, striving to be number one, even at the expense of others. The next one, dissensions, separation caused by disagreements. And remember, these are characteristics of the unsaved life. Heresies. We tend to think of heresy as a belief. Somebody believes something that's not truth, and that's heresy, but that's not really what this word is going after. This word in the Greek is talking about the groups formed by people with self-willed opinions. Heresies, the groups formed, that happens in churches all the time. People just kind of get sideways with some things, and so they begin attracting people to them, and the more people they can get on their side. And Paul said, whoa, that is a sign of an unsaved life. It's a characteristic. Envy, displeasure at the success or prosperity of others. Murders, well, that's obvious, unlawful killing of others. Drunkenness, intoxication by strong drink. A mark of the unsaved life. Revelries, riotous parties for entertainment accompanied by lewdness and drunkenness. Now listen to me very closely. If you're here this morning and you are saved, and one or more of the things in that list is still active in your life, you automatically know what needs to go, and I'm telling you it needs to go today. It needs to go today. Paul's talking here. The question comes, does that mean if I look at this list and I got at least one of those things in my life and I'm saved, or I claim to be saved, I think I'm saved, does that mean I'm not saved? No, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is these are characteristics of the unsaved life. When people practice these habitually, come under no conviction about them at all, then they're probably not saved. And I would say to you this morning, no matter what you claim, if you can practice these kinds of things, and this list is not exhaustive by any means, but if you can practice these kinds of things in your life and there is no conviction come to you, there's no desire to get that out of your life and get right with God and come back and walk in obedience to Him, then you probably aren't really saved to begin with. But if you are saved and you look at that and think, oh wow, I still struggle in some of these areas, then you know what areas you need to work on. You know what has to go, and God will help you do that. If someone were to ask you if you are saved and they see these pieces of identification in your life, it's a sign to them you need to make some changes fast. Now, let's talk about the ID of salvation, and we'll be through. The ID of salvation. It's in Galatians 5. Everything I've said last Sunday and everything I'm saying today is to lead us up to this point, and then we'll take it from there in some detail beginning next Sunday. Now, we have here in verses 18 to 21 characteristics of the unsaved life, identification marks of an unsaved life. So what are the identification marks of a saved life? We'll look at them. These are wonderful. Verse 22, but the fruit of the Spirit. There's that fruit. There's that fruit. We bear fruit. Anyone who's saved bears fruit. That fruit is our identification. And these are the pieces of fruit. Love. How many in favor of love? Joy. Maybe you want joy. Peace. Would you like to live a life of peace? Long-suffering. That's patience. Kindness. Goodness. Faithfulness. Gentleness. Self-control.